So this is the last one of our forms. So we looked at slope-intercept form, we looked at point-slope form, and now we're going to look at standard form. Standard form isn't really that useful. It doesn't give us a whole lot of information. It doesn't tell us slope, does not tell us y-intercept, doesn't tell us any of those things. The one thing it's good for, though, is if we just want to find our x and our y-intercepts. So let's go ahead and open this up and let's see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to write down the form of a line, equation of a line in standard form. 5x minus 4y is equal to 16. Okay? And what do I want? I want to know what are the x and the y intercepts. So that's my question that I want to solve. So I'm going to write that here. What are the x and y intercepts? Okay, so let's just talk about what that means for a minute. So if I have a graph, let's see here, I'll do this like this. This here is my y-axis. Okay. And then I have an x-axis. And I have points somewhere. I have some line. And let's see here, I'm going to draw my line. I have a line that comes through. Something like that. For whatever reason, this pen doesn't want to write. Here we go. Okay. So I have some line. Okay, it's supposed to be straight. I have a point here, and I have a point here. It can be any number. In this case, they'd both be positive. So this right here would be my y-intercept. Okay. And this one here would be my x-intercept. So again, when we're thinking of x-intercept, I'm looking for x when y is always 0. Okay? So y is always 0, and I'm looking for x. Let me just write this like this. You need to remember that, and that goes with x-intercept. That will help you. Y-intercept, so what am I looking for? I'm looking for my y. Notice I wrote that second. Okay? And when I'm looking for my y at my y-intercept, x is always 0. Okay? So these are very important concepts, especially this one down here. So, what does that mean for us? That means I have to find my x-intercept and my y-intercept. So, we're going to try to do this in this little bit of space right here. So my x-intercept. I want you to think of x-intercept as one word, one idea. So my x-intercept, that means what? That means whenever I see that, I want to think I'm looking for x and y is 0. Okay, that's what we were talking about right here. So let's just go ahead and we're just going to write that out. We're going to take this equation, 5x, my x stays x because I don't know what it is, minus 4, well what's y at the x-intercept? Y is 0. At my x-intercept, y is 0. So I'm going to substitute in 0 for y is equal to 16. So now I just go ahead and I do the math. So this is going to be 5x equals 16. Then I divide both sides of my equation by 5. So then I get my x-intercept. I'm going to write it like this. So my x-intercept is where x equals 16/5. Okay? So if I was going to write that as a coordinate, that would be x is 16/5 and y is 0. Okay, so now I want to find my y-intercept. So we'll do that over here. My y-intercept. Okay, so what does that mean? Whenever I see y-intercept, I'm thinking I want to know y, which means x has to be 0. Okay? So I'm going to do the same sort of thing that I did here. I have my 5. I know x is 0 at the y-intercept. X is 0 at the y-intercept. Minus 4y, because I'm looking for y, equals 16. So I know negative 4y equals 16. And then that means then that y is negative 4. Okay? So that means y is negative 4. And that would be my y-intercept. So my y-intercept is where y equals negative 4. So I'm going to write that down. Y, I'll write it in red, is where y equals negative 4. And if we're going to write it as a coordinate, my x is 0 and my y is negative 4. Okay? So clearly, my intercepts here are not my intercepts here. Okay? This was just drawn as a concept. This here was the actual equation. Okay. So let's take this one step further. So as I said before, this is not a very helpful form. The only thing this is good for, if I have it like this, is I can find my x and my y intercepts rather easily. But let's say I want to rewrite it in standard form, because, rewrite it in slope-intercept form, because then I can find the slope. From this form here, I don't know what the slope is. So let's say I want to know what the slope is. So let's just write this down as equation. So I want to know what is the slope and y-intercept. Okay, so we're given this line. I could go through all this hassle in finding my y-intercept, but then I still wouldn't be able to find the slope. However, if I make this y equals, if I make it y equals, it's going to look like this, which would be my slope-intercept form. And then I'm good to go. So let's copy down that equation that I had up there on the top. I had 5x minus 4y equals 16. Okay, I want to get my y term by itself. So if I want to get my y term by itself, then initially I want to get negative 4y alone, which means I would have to subtract my x term from both sides of that equation. This turns into a 0, so then I'm left with negative 4y equals, not like terms, because I want it in slope-intercept form, my x has to go first, minus 5x plus 16. I almost have y by itself. I have the y term by itself, but here I want just the y by itself. So that means I have to divide both sides of that equals by negative 4. I'm going to do every single term. Okay? So that means y equals, well, that's going to be a positive 5/4 x minus 4. So you can see from here, I'm able to get the slope. So this here is my slope, and this here is my y-intercept, which we had determined earlier. That was our y-intercept when we put 0 in for x, right? So we got the same y-intercept. So this is what is important. And let's write this off to this little space that I have off here to the side. So when you're given standard form, you must solve for y to determine the slope and y-intercept. Okay, so that's kind of the takeaway here. You must solve for y to determine the slope and the y-intercept if you're given something in standard form. And that's everything I have for the foldable with the 3 forms of a linear equation.